There is something powerful about the first moments of your day, when the world is still quiet, when your mind has not yet been pulled in 100 directions, when the sun has barely risen and the air carries a sacred stillness. It is in those moments that heaven waits for your attention. Every morning is an invitation, an opening in the realm of the Spirit, where you decide what atmosphere will govern your life. Prayer aligns the heart with God before the noise of the day begins. To understand this deeply, imagine the morning as a blank canvas, untouched, unmarked, and full of potential. In those quiet early moments, your heart is most receptive, your mind is least crowded, and your spirit is most open. When you choose to begin your day with prayer, you are choosing alignment before activity. You are choosing presence before pressure. You are choosing divine order before the world attempts to impose its own demands upon you. Morning prayer is not merely a religious routine, it is a spiritual strategy. It is the deliberate act of bringing your thoughts, desires, emotions, and intentions under the influence of God before anything else can lay claim to them. Throughout the day, different voices will try to speak. Voices of fear, voices of distraction, voices of urgency, voices of temptation. But in the morning, you silence all other voices by honoring the one who holds the blueprint of your life. Alignment is not accidental, it is intentional. When your heart aligns with God at the start of the day, your decisions carry His wisdom, your conversations carry His grace, and your responses carry His strength. Many people go through life reacting to circumstances, to people, to negativity, because they did not begin the day anchored. Prayer becomes the anchor that stabilizes your inner world. It corrects what is misaligned, sharpens what is dull, and awakens what is spiritually dormant. There are realms of clarity that only come in the morning when you intentionally sit before God without rush. In that stillness, burdens become lighter, anxieties lose their grip, and direction becomes clearer. You begin to sense divine nudges, what to pursue, what to avoid, what to invest your energy into, what to release and stop carrying. Morning prayer brings divine order to inner chaos. It takes the scattered pieces of your emotions and gathers them into a place of spiritual focus. When your heart is aligned with God at dawn, you step into the day with a different posture. You become less shaken by interruptions, less threatened by challenges, and less overwhelmed by responsibilities. Everything flows differently because you started from the right place, His presence. The morning is a spiritual gateway. What enters it shapes the rest of the day. The earliest moments of your day are not just chronological, they are deeply spiritual. Every morning carries a certain purity, a softness in the atmosphere, a silence that allows the spirit to perceive what the heart often misses during the busyness of the day. In this sacred window, your mind has not yet been invaded by responsibilities, notifications, conversations, or concerns. It is the one moment where you still have authority over the tone and direction of your day before the world attempts to influence it. A gateway is a point of access, a place where things either enter or are kept out. This is how the morning functions. Whatever you permit through the gate has permission to travel with you. If worry is the first thing you entertain, it becomes the lens through which you see everything. If negativity is the first voice you embrace, it becomes the atmosphere you unconsciously carry. If distraction is your first engagement, focus becomes harder to find. Many people underestimate how spiritually sensitive the early hours are. The day does not start when you get out of bed. It starts when you decide what enters your inner world. Understanding the morning as a gateway means being intentional about what you allow in. The spirit world recognizes the power of beginnings, and so should you. Thoughts are louder in the morning. Emotions are more impressionable. Decisions made in the morning root themselves deeper because the heart is more open and unguarded. This is why so many battles are either won or lost before noon, not because of what happened during the day, but because of what was permitted at the gate. When a person begins the morning on autopilot, scrolling aimlessly, rushing anxiously, or stepping into activity without spiritual grounding, they unknowingly open the gateway to confusion, pressure, and emotional instability. But when the morning is treated as a sacred gateway, the atmosphere shifts. You become conscious of what you speak, what you think, what you meditate on. You begin to recognize that the spiritual climate you set in the first hour often echoes through the rest of your day. The morning offers you a chance to build, shape, and command the atmosphere you will walk in. It is the gateway through which peace, clarity, strength, or spiritual distraction can enter. Prayer activates spiritual sensitivity and divine guidance. There is a realm of perception beyond the natural senses, a realm where direction is clearer, discernment is sharper, and the movements of God become more traceable. This realm does not open by chance. It opens through consistent spiritual engagement, and one of the greatest triggers for that engagement is prayer, especially the kind offered in the quiet hours of the morning. When you begin your day with prayer, you awaken parts of your spirit that remain dormant when life is approached casually. You become aware of what God is doing, what He is saying, and how He is leading. Spiritual sensitivity is not merely the ability to feel something supernatural. It is the ability to perceive accurately. It is the inner clarity that helps you distinguish between your emotions and divine conviction, between distraction and instruction, between opportunities that look good and those that are truly God ordained. Many people struggle through their day not because God is silent, but because their spirits are too crowded, too noisy, too dull to pick up His signals. Prayer sharpens that dullness. It quiets the noise. It creates a spiritual environment where the voice of God becomes more recognizable. There are decisions you cannot make well without guidance. There are relationships you should not entertain without discernment. There are opportunities that look promising but carry hidden traps. There are conversations that need divine wisdom. There are battles you must not enter without instruction. Prayer is what opens you to this realm of guidance. When you pray sincerely in the morning, you are not just talking to God, you are learning to listen. Divine guidance is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is a nudge, a discomfort, a sudden peace, a scripture that stands out, or an idea that seems too timely to ignore. These are the fruits of a sensitive spirit. Many times the problems people encounter later in the day are simply the result of moving without guidance. They responded too quickly. They trusted too easily. They spoke without restraint. They entered environments without spiritual preparation. They made choices without an awareness of the spiritual atmosphere around them. But the person who starts the day in prayer moves differently. They begin to sense when something is off, even if everything looks normal on the outside. They can feel when a conversation needs caution, when a door should not be opened, when an opportunity is not aligned with God's timing. This is not superstition, it is sensitivity. Morning prayer also creates a pathway for divine guidance throughout the day. When the heart is postured correctly at dawn, the spirit remains more stable and receptive for hours afterward. You carry an awareness of God. You notice His fingerprints in conversations, in decisions, in unexpected encounters. You become more attuned to the whispers of the Spirit, the quiet impressions that guide you away from danger or toward destiny. Prayer in the morning is like tuning an instrument. If you tune it well at the start, everything you play throughout the day sounds clearer. Prayer activates sensitivity by reducing the influence of the flesh. In the early hours, before the mind is overstimulated and the emotions are stirred by daily pressures, prayer allows you to consecrate your inner world. You surrender your desires, fears, and ambitions. You bring them under the authority of God. This surrender creates space for the Holy Spirit to influence your thoughts and decisions. A sensitive spirit is not necessarily the result of spiritual maturity alone. It is the result of regular surrender. When you pray at dawn, you empty yourself of the unnecessary so you can receive the essential. Divine guidance also increases as sensitivity deepens. God does not guide the distracted, He guides the aligned. He guides those who pay attention. He guides the heart that is yielded early in the morning before the rush of life pulls it in different directions. There are instructions God releases only to the attentive. There are secrets He reveals only in stillness. There are warnings He gives only to those who come early. When you start your day with prayer, you are signaling to heaven that you desire His leadership, His wisdom, and His direction above your own. Morning prayer forms a spiritual rhythm. Over time, this rhythm strengthens your intuition, your discernment, and your ability to hear God clearly. You begin to notice that you are no longer guessing your way through the day. You are being guided. You sense stop signs and green lights in the spirit. You receive clarity that others call coincidence, but you know is divine orchestration. Sensitivity becomes the lens through which you interpret life. Prayer activates spiritual sensitivity and opens you to divine guidance in ways your natural senses never could. The first words you speak in the morning determine the atmosphere you carry. Words are not empty expressions, they are spiritual containers, carriers of power, creators of atmosphere. Every morning, when the mind is fresh and the spirit is open, your words carry even greater influence. What you speak at the beginning of your day sets a tone over your thoughts, your emotions, your expectations, and even your spiritual posture. Many people underestimate the weight of their first words. They wake up and immediately declare stress, fatigue, worry, or frustration without realizing they are shaping the climate they will walk in. The morning is not the time to echo how you feel. It is the time to establish what you desire to carry. There is a mystery behind beginnings. Everything that starts has the power to influence what follows. The first seed you plant determines the harvest. The first sound you release determines the vibrations around you. This is why spiritual people guard their mornings. They understand that the spirit realm is attentive to the words spoken at dawn. When you speak faith-filled words early in the day, you give heaven permission to align the events of your day with what you have declared. When your first words are words of gratitude, your heart becomes more receptive to God's presence. When your first words are words of surrender, your spirit becomes more responsive. When your first words are words of blessing, you carry an atmosphere that affects everyone you meet. The power of morning words is not about reciting phrases mechanically. It is about intentionally crafting the environment your day will grow in. Words build, words open, words establish, words summon. If you speak words of fear, you call fear. If you speak words of grace, you invite grace. If you speak words of confusion, confusion finds expression. Many of the emotional battles people fight throughout the day were unintentionally invited through careless morning declarations. What begins as a simple complaint becomes a doorway for discouragement. What begins as a statement of frustration becomes an atmosphere of heaviness. The enemy does not need much. He only needs agreement, and words are agreements. When a person learns to speak with intentionality in the morning, everything changes. Instead of waking up and unconsciously echoing the pressures ahead, they begin to command the day. They speak strength even if they feel weak. They speak peace even if challenges await. They speak clarity even if decisions are heavy. These declarations are not denial, they are alignment. They align your inner world. Consistent morning prayer builds discipline, peace, and supernatural strength. There is a transformation that happens when a person commits to seeking God at the start of every day. It is not just a spiritual act, it becomes a molding process, a training ground for the heart and the mind. Discipline is not formed in grand moments, but in simple, repeated choices. Every time you choose prayer over hurry, communion over distraction, and stillness over chaos, something within you becomes strengthened. You begin to develop a spiritual consistency that spills into every other area of your life. The discipline you build in prayer becomes the same discipline that shapes your decisions, your habits, your reactions, and your character. Morning prayer teaches you to master your space rather than be mastered by it. It forces your flesh to submit, your priorities to reorganize, and your spirit to take the lead. Discipline grows when you do something not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. There will be mornings when your emotions resist, when your mind feels dull, when your body is tired, but the consistency of your pursuit begins to form spiritual muscle. It is in those moments of pushing past convenience that depth is formed. A person who learns this rhythm does not depend on motivation. They operate from conviction. As discipline strengthens, peace begins to settle into your life. Morning prayer brings a supernatural calmness that cannot be explained by circumstances. It quiets the noise within you and stabilizes your emotions. When you enter the day from a place of communion, you carry an unusual stillness, a calm confidence that is not shaken by sudden problems or unexpected changes. Peace is not the absence of trouble, it is the presence of God in the midst of trouble. When your day begins with Him, your heart becomes guarded from anxiety and unnecessary pressure. You find that you respond differently to challenges because you are anchored from the inside. This peace does not come randomly, it comes from alignment. Your thoughts align, your emotions align, your decisions align, and your inner world begins to settle. Many people spend their entire day trying to find the peace they could have secured in the first moments of the morning. They chase comfort through people, productivity, entertainment, or distraction, but peace does not come from activity. It comes from stillness before God. Morning prayer positions your heart in a posture of surrender, reminding your soul that you are not alone, not uncovered, and not powerless. Alongside discipline and peace, consistent morning prayer produces a kind of strength that is not humanly generated. It is spiritual strength, empowerment, clarity, endurance, resilience. This strength makes you unshakable when pressures increase. It becomes the force that carries you when your natural capacity is stretched. Spiritual strength is not loud or dramatic. It often shows up in subtle ways. You realize you can forgive more easily. You can let go of offenses faster. You can handle stress without breaking. You can think clearly under pressure. You can maintain joy even when situations try to suppress it. These are the fruits of supernatural strength. Morning prayer is where this strength is received. It is the place where you exchange weakness for His power. It is where burdens become lighter and battles that once overwhelmed you now seem manageable. There are moments in prayer when you feel nothing physically, but your spirit is being fortified. You walk out refreshed, not because your situation changed, but because you changed. You became strengthened from within. This inner strength becomes visible in the stability of your decisions, the calmness of your responses, and the confidence with which you face challenges. Consistency is the bridge that connects these blessings. One prayerful morning can inspire you, but consistent prayerful mornings transform you. The accumulation of those daily moments builds a spiritual foundation. You begin to notice that things that once destabilized you no longer have the same effect. You are more rooted, more aware, more grounded. Your spirit becomes more sensitive, your mind more disciplined, and your emotions more controlled. This consistency shapes your spiritual identity. It becomes a lifestyle, not a ritual. It becomes the reason you navigate life with confidence and clarity. It becomes the source of the supernatural strength that carries you through seasons of pressure. And through this consistency, you begin to live not from weakness but from continual communion.